Hey there and welcome back to another Hawkeye review, and today we'll be talking about the latest episode to drop, Echoes, which follows the backstory of the leader of the Tracksuit Mafia and brand new villain, Ekko, explores her current anger and animosity towards Clint and Kate, as well as plants some seeds for future episodes of the show. We start off following the backstory of the new character Ekko, who was introduced as the leader of the Tracksuits in the closing moments of the second episode. We learn that she's completely deaf and early in her life struggled because her dad couldn't afford to send her to a specialised deaf school. But obviously, this provides a bit of a challenge to her. And so, he tells her she needs to watch and learn, observe what's around her so she can exist in two different worlds. And we see that she takes this lesson to heart throughout her childhood years and learns to watch people, not just their mouths, but everything. And by doing so, she becomes a very powerful combatant, taking out a much larger boy when she was just a little girl. And then dominating another fella in a kickboxing match as a young adult. And also, Wilson Fisk's cameo as her uncle was pretty exciting. So obviously he's going to turn up later this season to fight Hawkeye and Kate, and that's going to be really interesting. And then with Daredevil also probably getting introduced in Spider-Man, we're going to have some good old-fashioned vigilante goodness coming soon. And then this is where the episode takes a bit of a darker turn, as we see Maya turn up at the Tracksuit's headquarters and watch the Tracksuit get massacred by Ronin. And this whole scene was just brutal, seeing the blood splatter on the windows as she runs past, and then seeing her dad, who at this point we realise is the leader of the Tracksuits, getting impaled. Damn. And, you know, I never really thought much about how what Ronin's doing is kind of wrong. Like, yeah, being a criminal's bad, but he was going after the whole gang, not just the leaders, not just the enforcers, but probably even the low-level thugs or the white-collar crime dudes that don't really deserve to die so brutally. I mean, yeah, I get it, you're sad a big purple alien killed your family, but I don't really think it justifies becoming a full-on vigilante serial killer with no mercy. And I mean, come on, slaughtering them with a sword? Man, at least use a gun and finish them quickly instead of leaving them to bleed out. Yeesh. And so suddenly, I kind of think this character's a little bit justified in probably wanting Ronin dead. I mean, yeah, I don't want Clint to die, but I do sympathise. Especially since her dad's not coming back. But his family did. And then we go from this kind of depressing moment to one of the funnier moments of the episode. And considering this episode's actually quite funny, that's saying something. Where Kate, who's currently taped to a kiddie ride alongside Clint, works through one of the Tracksuit gangster's domestic problems. Telling him he needs to call his girlfriend to apologise for buying Imagine Dragons tickets and acting like they were a gift for her, when they were really a gift for him. But that he needs to make her understand that she hurt his feelings too. And I mean, it's just such a weird little moment, but it really lightened the mood after everything we saw in the flashback, and helped restore the upbeat, quirky tone of the show. Plus, it just made Kate's character even more likeable, and continued to flesh out the Tracksuit guys as more than just goons. They're real people with real lives. And not many films and shows actually bother with doing that kind of thing, making them feel like real people. So that was honestly quite special. And then we get to see the first interactions between Ekko and the Hawkeye duo, where there's a quick moment where Ekko tries to communicate with Clint solely via sign language, and then tells him he relies too heavily on his technology. So, obviously, I think that's going to be foreshadowing that he's going to ditch the hearing aid from time to time in the future. Like when he needs to go ultra focus mode maybe. Anyway, Clint tries to clear Kate's name and tells the crew that she clearly isn't Ronin, as she's just a spoiled trust fund baby. But for some reason, Ekko's not convinced, and then tries to choke her out. Yikes. Like, I get it, you're mad, but at least let her finish her sentence before you try to off her. It's clearly not her. Anyway, Clint breaks free, and there's a fun fight sequence where he takes on the goons and then gets kicked around a bit by Ekko. And seriously, respect for this character. No powers or anything, and kicks around this guy who's been a professional assassin and spy for like 20 years. And I'm hoping she actually sticks around the MCU for a while. And I actually do think they have a show in the works for her now that I'm thinking about it. So that should be pretty awesome to watch. She just seems like such a unique character. Anyway, Hawkeye finds a convenient trampoline, and then uses it to gain access to his bow and arrow, and then makes short work of Ekko and frees Kate before slaughtering a bunch of tracksuits. And god, this fight scene is cool. And pretty brutal. The poor guy's in the ball pit. Ouch. But then it's followed by an even cooler sequence that feels like it was ripped straight out of a video game. Like seriously, it was just so nostalgic. That's the only way to describe it. The silly music, the back of the truck opening to show a bunch of tracksuits there with guns, Clint and Kate not being able to communicate, Kate being forced to use arrows that have random effects, Clint having to drive backwards, getting trapped on the bridge as a truck speeds towards you. I mean, this is classic video games. But all that aside, I think by far the best part of this sequence is when they double team to use the Pym particle arrow to take out the truck. It was just so cool. And I mean, just from the moment you notice the word Pym on the arrow, you just know it's about to get crazy. And it had me on the edge of my seat the whole time. And then we go from that action-packed scene to one of the more emotional scenes where Kate has to help Clint have a conversation with his son over the phone because his hearing aid was destroyed. And I mean, a lonely kid calling his dad and telling him it's okay that he can't come home for Christmas is sad enough. But having to read it via notepad and interpret based on Kate's facial expressions was even worse. I mean, this scene was just so sad. And also, I really like that Clint was quite nice to Kate in the aftermath of all this. I mean, he was probably going to clear things up with the tracksuits right before she botched it all. And this is putting his Christmas at risk, so he'd have every right to yell at her. But he's just nice. Good fella. Although still early days, I feel like one of those arguments is on the way at some point. We then return to the tracksuits, which, side note, hilariously seem to have a full-on business trademarked as Trust a Bro, where we learn there's some dissent in the ranks, with Kazi telling Ekko that Uncle, so Fisk, wouldn't be happy with him going after Ronin, and that it's making them stand out too much. Of course, Ekko doesn't take this too well and shuts him down before she storms off. So that guy's definitely betraying her, right? He openly says her dad always used to put the crew first, and not follow his personal agenda exclusively. So either this guy is going to start a good old-fashioned coup, or he's going to go to Fisk, who shuts this down. And then we get some more Papa Hawkeye, as he gives Kate a real talk about being a hero, telling her it comes with a lot of sacrifices, and that you can lose things forever, e.g. moments with your family, Black Widow, etc. And then he goes on to tell her that he isn't somebody that's trying to be a role model, or be looked up to. That people shouldn't and don't aspire to be him. Which of course she calls out as BS, telling him that only a hero would leave their family at Christmas to rescue a stranger like he did. And actually, true. Despite what he says, he's probably one of my favourite heroes at this point. He's just so nice and kind and generous. And I'm really liking their little dynamic. It's really cute. And I'm liking his mentorship style as well. Just telling her how it is and making sure she knows the facts. Compare that to Tony Stark, who just turns up at your house and gives you a multi-million-dollar supersuit and tells you to go nuts beating up street thugs. I think this might be a little bit of a better approach to creating a new hero. And I also enjoyed the reference to Hawkeye's comic book suit. Marvel's really laying it on thick with the references, but they do it so well that it's honestly really enjoyable and just adds to the story for me. And it probably helps that this is the type of story where it's easy to slot in and make fun of, but it's still appreciated, and I just thought I should address it. Moving on, the pair decide to break into her mum's penthouse and hack into her company account to try and get information on the tracksuits and on Jack. And I really like that moment of realization of how rich Kate is on Clint's face. I've been there, walking into a friend's house and then suddenly looking around and going, oh. Anyway, they then get info on a company called Sloan Limited, which is linked to Kazi, the guy who's totally going to betray Ekko, before Clint hears a noise and goes to investigate before being confronted by Jack and the Ronin sword. And meanwhile, Kate gets locked out of the account because Jack's info is way more encrypted than the last guy's. Very suspicious. Something's not right there. And unfortunately, that's where the episode leaves off, on a delicious cliffhanger. Ugh, I hate cliffhangers, but I love cliffhangers. You know what I mean? So yeah. Anyway though, for next week, I doubt we'll be getting a fight scene. Just more weird passive aggressiveness and maybe a very angry phone call from Mum. But, on the bright side, Clint's definitely going to believe that this guy's sus and will want that sword back too. So they're going to come to blows at some point, I'd say. Anyway though, those are just my opinions, and now I'd like to hear yours. What do you think of the episode? Like it? Hate it? Make sure to leave a comment and let me know.